I'm a big fan of black and white aesthetic in movies and games alike, because it creates a really strong atmosphere. I've used this principle in several of my own projects, usually with the addition of some pop color like red to make it stand out better. But if we think about it, it isn't just black and white. For example, Limbo. There are many colors in between those blacks and whites, many shades of grey. So it's not really black and white, it's monochromatic. This means that there are all the colors in between black and white. But recently I've joined a black and white game jam, where the idea was to create a game just with 2 colors, 2 bits for color. And this was quite an interesting challenge because often there's a lot of going on in a game and I needed to make it clear to the player what's happening and make sure that they wouldn't get lost in what's going on in the game. So let's take a look at how I made this game. This is Deathbound, a roguelike set in a 1-minute time loop, where time is your health. So when you get damaged you lose time, and so on. Because it's a roguelike, the whole map and abilities and weapons are randomized, the levels are procedurally generated, and of course there are only 2 colors. I started off with the player controller. I wanted to make sure that it feels nice to control the character. For that I've used the base third-person character in Unreal and modified its acceleration and turn rate to be basically instant. So there is basically no delay between the input and action. Then I created a character model in Blender. I've textured it with this nice human body painted texture I found on OpenGameArt. I will leave a link to it and other assets I've used in this game in the description. Also, I will leave a link to a tutorial explaining how to use stencils to paint textures directly on 3D models in Blender. I've modified this texture in Krita to make sure that there are no other colors than black and white. And this is basically the principle I've been using throughout the whole game. Using both colors on all the important objects, on the player character, on the interface, on the pickups and weapons and everything. Basically, I wanted to make sure that everything can be seen and give the same information on both black and white background. For example, I represent the health of the characters by this light underneath them. So I needed to make sure that the player can be visible on both black background when they have low health and when they have full health on the completely white background. By the way, to limit the colors in the game itself, I used a simple post-process material which basically uses a texture to limit the colors on the screen. It can be also used to create a cel-shaded look. And because I am not a good programmer and I use blueprints for everything, I had to cheat the shadows behind the crates and bars and objects because I don't know how to write a shader or something to make this effect. So basically I just placed a light underneath the characters and set the character to a different light channel so the light underneath the character wouldn't be visible on the character. And the character is then lit by different light source placed in the environment. The enemies don't have any white texture on them because I basically didn't want them to be seen when they are dead, which would create more chaos into the scene, which I try to avoid as much as possible. Also, you can see a particle trail behind the player, which also represents their health, and also this trail helps to distinguish the player character from all the other. On the interface you can see this beating heart, which is actually a 3D model, animated 3D model which I found on OpenGameArt, which animation play rate is directly connected to the player health. So when the player has low health, the animation speeds up and also some particles spawn in front of it. And all of this is projected onto a texture using a Scene Capture 2D inside Unreal. And this texture is basically then placed onto the heads-up display. But even in this you can see the concept of the both colors being used to represent the same information. You've got the heart, which won't be visible on a white background. That's why there's also the time limit representing the very same information. Another very important thing for this project was the sound. I play different sounds when you pick up a weapon, when you collect a power-up, or when you are healed. And all of these sounds are quite distinct from all the combat sounds, so even if you are in the middle of a fight, you know when you are healed. Or you know that you've picked up a new weapon or a power-up, and you can easily distinguish that from being damaged. Basically, it's just using contrast in sounds as well as in colors. When we get back to the visuals, you can notice that I usually use just simple shapes and very few other models. It ensures that the scene won't be too chaotic, and also it helped me when generating these levels because this was the first time I've used procedural generation for environment creation. If you would like to know how I made this procedural level generation system, let me know in the comments and I will make a video about it. And yeah, I think this is basically it. If you have any questions, please ask them in the comments. And let me know what you think about the game. You can play it for free on itch.io. I will leave a link to it in the description. And that will be it. So stay safe and bye.